So these are the bits I've picked up on these questions in the House of Commons. The bits I picked up on to do with cross-border hiring, there's only actually a couple of bits that I've managed to grab. If there's anything else on cross-border hiring as mentioned, well, I may have missed it, but these are the only two that I've been able to pick up on.
Baroness Casey was clear in one of her key recommendations. The government must end the practice of out-of-area taxis by introducing...
And once again, the term taxis is completely used in the wrong context. Why can't they get it right? It's private hire vehicles which is the issue and not taxis. If the government can't get it right, then what hope do we have?
Introducing stronger national standards for taxi licensing and driver regulation.
Okay, so this is where the danger lies, in my view, because they're again talking about standards. Yes, we all want standards, but as far as I can see, the government will only be pushing for a minimum standard, which means everybody's going to be the same. And it's going to make it easier for cross-border hiring because everyone's going to adhere to these minimum standards. So they're going to say, well, what's the problem with cross-border hiring? Now, forgetting the fact that local authorities, if local authorities are still going to be around and transport authorities are not going to take over, so local authorities can still then put in their own standards, which an out-of-town vehicle doesn't have to apply to, out-of-town driver doesn't have to apply to. So to me, this is all ridiculous at the moment and doesn't sound very, very promising.
Across Greater Manchester, we know this problem all too well, and for years drivers have exploited the fragmented system by obtaining the easiest licences from councils in one area and then operating elsewhere. As a result, many taxis working in Greater Manchester are licensed 100 miles away in Wolverhampton. Could the Minister let us know about the work she's doing to address this specific issue? It feels like there's an opportunity this afternoon, Madam Deputy Speaker, through the English Devolution and Community Empowerment Bill, but the opportunity has not yet been taken. Will the Minister work with colleagues across the House, if an amendment to the bill is the way to achieve this, to ensure that this important recommendation from Baroness Casey can be delivered? And finally, Madam Deputy Speaker...
Okay, so this is just talking about something else, but I'll let it run and see what Jess Phillips has to reply on this.
When Parliament will see legislation for a Hillsborough law, as promised many times by the government, to guarantee that public officials and authorities cooperate fully with a duty of candour in cases such as this, including the upcoming national inquiry.
I thank the Honourable Lady, and to pick up on some of the things that she asked, really specifically on, and I'm meeting with the Department for Transport on this very, very issue last week, and it is about just looking for a legislative vehicle. The government has said that it will undo some, I have to say, the harm done by the deregulation legislation of the past.
Well, she's wrong. The Deregulation Act 2015 was nothing about cross-border hiring. It was to do with the triple lock, clarifying subcontracting, the triple lock making sure that the three licenses, being the driver's license, the operator's license and the vehicle license, are all under the same licensing authority for subcontracting. It may have been exploited, but the Deregulation Act didn't mention anything about cross-border hiring at all. The other thing it did clarify was that a driver's license could be issued for 3 years. That's all I can remember from the Deregulation Act, but there was nothing to do with cross-border hiring.
With regard to the dangers that have come about in safeguarding and taxi licensing, and it is a legislative vehicle, and she invited members to work across the House. And what I would say in every interaction since the last time I stood here, or the Home Secretary stood here doing a statement, in every interaction I've had with victims of this crime, which has been many.
Right, we'll leave it there and we'll skip forward probably about 25 minutes when, as far as I saw, was the only other mention of cross-border hiring.
She's brought to this role, not just to centre this discussion and action around the victims and young girls, but also to work in collaboration with others, not just in this House, but who are directly affected. Can I just add a question to echo points made by another honourable friend around loopholes in taxi licensing. One of the biggest issues that comes up in my constituency, both from taxi users and women's groups, but also from the vast majority of decent, hard-working taxi drivers, is that these loopholes and the ineffectiveness and outdated nature of taxi licensing actually gives a bad name to the system as a whole. Can I urge her to work with her colleagues and ensure, as we proceed with the national inquiry, we also proceed with this updating of legislation to give protection to all?
So on this point of where a lot of people are saying that legislation is outdated, well, I don't necessarily agree with that, because legislation was specifically put in place to give local authorities full local control over their taxis and private hire vehicles, and nothing has really changed in legislation that has given us the chaos that it has at the moment. The issue is where perhaps good-meaning people, MPs, whatever, don't know what the existing legislation is. Now, let's refer back to section 75(1)(a), which I won't go into here. That was there to ensure that local authorities had the full control over their taxis and private hire vehicles. Where the issue lies, with the chaos that perhaps this industry is in, is down to men in suits and overpaid barristers, which I say again and again and again, to the advantage of Uber, who wants to take over the whole taxi private hire trade throughout the whole world. Simple as that.
Absolutely. Long before Baroness Casey was pointing out the safeguarding issues, I was being lobbied by really decent, hard-working people around the failures of the taxi licensing system as it currently stands. And we absolutely will consider all options. And as I've said, we have committed to legislating really specifically on this point. But we are looking also at including out-of-area working, national standards and enforcement, and consulting on making local transport authorities responsible for the licensing.
Right, did you hear that? Making local transport authorities responsible. So what they are looking at is completely getting rid of local licensing authorities, your local council, your local licensing committee looking after, I presume it's taxis and private hire, we don't know. So it appears, but nobody's actually given a description of what a transport authority is, that they're going to make these bigger transport authorities responsible for private hire. Let's stick to private hire licensing, which then is going to probably be a bigger area, and it's going to be probably along the same lines as the mythical Uber regions. Now, of course, we've got devolution to contend with as well. So whilst we may be in the trade thinking, yes, great, the government are now looking at this, there are dangers to what the government are looking at. And my major concern is the government is actually going to make it worse than it is now. The trouble is, and I say this with all due respect to the MPs and all that, all those people, is please listen to the trade, at what the trade believes is the right way to go. Forget all these bigger areas. Okay, you can look at minimum standards, of course, but that is not going to cure the issue of cross-border hiring. And the issue of cross-border hiring, as far as the Casey report is concerned, is that cross-border hiring gives a criminal, unscrupulous private hire, let's say licensed driver, to be able to go across to another area and mingle with all the other out-of-town cars. Those out-of-town cars are probably just ordinary people doing their work but working outside. But cross-border hiring itself is the exact issue as raised in the Casey report. And unless you stop cross-border hiring with vehicles, drivers working in out of area, then nothing will be achieved. And creating bigger areas under this so-called new transport authority is going to destroy local licensing as we know it today.